Hello again, my dear students. This is our Thinking Out Loud Series 5, and today we are going to look at the mind reality. Beware of the true reality that you are seeing. Are you sure that is the reality? Alright, here we go. Perception is not reality. Even salt can look like sugar. If I were to show this picture here, and here from afar, can you tell whether it's sugar or it's salt? You can't, right? It all depends on how you see it in your head, and that is what we call perception. Alright? Well, Chinese New Year is just around the corner. If I were to show this picture, what comes to mind? Probably the aroma of the mandarin oranges, right? And if you close your eyes a little bit, you can probably even imagine putting a slice of that juicy fruit into your mouth and can taste the sweetness of it, the juice oozing out as you bite into it. So nice, right? And that could probably put a smile on your face. But the orange is not exactly in front of you, right? Let's take a look at another one. Wow, this is our very famous jeruk manga. We have the limau kasturi, we have the asam boy, we have a sprinkle of chili padi, and we have that sugar and the salt all over. Or just by looking at this picture, it makes us start to salivate. Anyone not salivating yet? Well, I'm not a big fan of jeruk, even I'm salivating. So, but is the jeruk in front of you? Are these pickled fruits in your hands? They are not, but you could almost smell it. You could almost taste it in your mouth without you even realizing it, without even being able to control it. Okay? That goes on to show how powerful our mind is. When something, the reality out there, is not even really in front of us, it's not even really within our reach, it's not even really within our grasp, it's not even in our hands, and yet we can see it, we can smell it, we can hear it, we can feel it. Right? That's how powerful our mind is, and that's just the beginning of talking about the mind reality here. Now, how do we actually see the world? Let's see how it works. We have this absolute reality, that's the actual thing, actual existence of an object, of a person, or an event out there, right? The real things, the real reality in the world. And what happens is that we will try to make sense of it. Make sense, as the word sense will tell us, starts with our sensory organs. We can smell something, we can see something, we can feel something with our skin, we can taste it if it's a taste something, or we could hear it if it's a sound. And do you know that our ears, our hearing, is able to distinguish many sounds? And not just that, our nose is able to distinguish about 50,000 of different aromas. That is a very refined organ we have there. And that's not to mention about the eyes and the skin and all that. Okay, so this is how it goes. Our sensory organs will pick up the reality out there. Okay, and that's more than enough that you need to get the information in. And from there, what does it do? Yeah, right. We learn this in our Form 1 science. It goes through into our brain, through our neural system, so we start processing. But before any process can take place in the brain, this information have to go through layers and layers of filters. And these layers of filters that we see here are actually our past experience, our memories, it could be our prior knowledge of something, and maybe just the way we are wired. Well, what do we mean by that, these filters? These are things that sometimes, or most of the time, even without our own knowledge, that is helping us or not very helping us to form the reality in our head and what we call the perception. Right? And because of that, because of these filters, whatever information that is real out there comes from our senses, they are still real. These are just receiving organs. When it comes through to our brain, because of these filters, the actual reality could be distorted, it could be deleted, or it could be generalized. Let's take a look at each one of these components here. What is distorting? Well, an example, and this happens to us very frequently. We walk past the cafe, we saw a bunch of friends sitting down there chatting. When we come nearer, we see that we hear that they are lowering down their voices. So quickly in our head, we process that, oh, they must be gossiping about me. So all the sad feelings and bad feelings and anger start to arise. In reality, they could be just talking about a Netflix program they watched last night, and it's a suspense thriller. So when we talk about suspense thriller, then of course you'll be having hush tones, lowering your voice and all that to suit the situation, the dramatic effect of things. So that is us distorting the reality, the actual reality out there. What about deleting? This is common perhaps. Let's take a simple example. The lecturer assigned a task, and the task is that you got to set the instructions. You got to prepare 5 slides. There must be narration, there must be an animation, and there must be at least 5 references. So happily, students go back and start making the assignment, and when it's being submitted, most of the time the references are missing. It's good job, good pictures, good videos, a good presentation, but the references are just not there. So that is a simple form of deletion of information that's been given to us. What about generalization? We do this all the time. Quickly, we go to a fruit store, we buy a bag of oranges, we bring it back, we cut it open, out of 5, 3 is rotten on the inside. So that is very sad, and we start to form this idea in our head, our perception, our mind reality of the fruit store. It's no good, never buy anything from the fruit store ever again. The uncle sells bad fruits, all fruits are bad. So what happens now? Every time we walk past the store, we will have an ill feeling inside of us, and that's not very nice. So that is how it works, right? And why is it important? Why is it important to understand how this works? And why is it important to check these filters that we have all the time? Because this is going to determine how we respond to the world out there, how we respond to the actual reality out there. And that's how people will see us. That's how people will perceive us using their own perception tool as well. Everyone has got the brain, so they will have their own way of looking at things as well. Can you see this whole mechanism of things? So now, the question is, which is the reality? I guess you get the gist of it. The reality is the one that we form in our head. It is the mind reality or the perception. Whatever that is out there is absolute. That is what it is. We can't change that, but we can change what is in our head. So let's take a look at this to prove that different people have got different perception, different way, different filters, different way of interpreting something. Mr. A says it's 6, Mr. B says it's 9. Both are not wrong, right? They are just having their own interpretation because of the filters, because of their perception. Mr. A says there are 4 sticks down there, and Mr. B says there are 3. Well, both are not wrong. I can never figure this out, but that's how it looks, right? So we have seen through the presentation today that number 1, our mind is very powerful. We can see and feel and hear and taste and sense things that are not even within our grasp, are not really in front of us, even though they're absolute reality. Number 2, the way our brain functions is that we receive the information from the outside through our sensory organs, and we start to filter in our head before we form an interpretation of what's going on, the perception. But this perception or mind reality is very much determined by the filters that we have in there. And having said that, my dear students, it is not who you are that holds you back, it is who you think you are not that is holding you back. Wouldn't you agree with me? Like this little, weak, scrawny kitten here, we think ourselves as not being very bright, not very clever, not very good in mathematics, not very good in science, not even very good in running. I even stumble when I walk, so not very good. It's just, I'm just no good, I'm just no good. I'll never sit in the front row of the class, or the lecturer may call me, I wouldn't be able to answer, even though I know the answer. Don't we feel like this? Don't we beat ourselves up a lot like this? We make ourselves feel small, we make ourselves so weak, we make ourselves not so clever, we make ourselves so introvert, we make ourselves just so tiny. And slowly we become smaller and smaller, not in reality, not as a reality, we make ourselves smaller and smaller in our head. Think about it. If we start doing that about ourselves, start thinking of ourselves and perceiving ourselves as being tiny, small, not so clever, and so on and so forth, we will never break out of it, because we believe that is what we are, that is how we see ourselves. Just think about it. If we can see things out there and process them, go back to the first slide, the oranges that are not with us, and we can still have this reaction, salivating and all. It's a reality that is not even there. What about things that we tell ourselves in here, daily, every day? The one closest to you, apart from God, is yourself. And imagine the amount of rubbish that you tell yourself, that make yourself feel like crap. Pardon my language. Now look at this picture. Try to remember this image every time you want to think something bad about yourself. Do you want to be the little, weak, scrawny kitten who looks in the mirror and see, again, maybe a tinier, weaker, and more scrawny kitten? Or you want the kitten to look into the mirror and see the king of the jungle, I'm not very clever now. I'm not very clever now in mathematics. Not that I'm not clever in everything. I'll do more exercises. My English is not so good now. I'll go for online classes and many free classes now. My technical writing is not very good. I'm not very good at writing citations. It's okay. I'll ask my lecturers. No. There are ways and means. It's whether we want it or not. Alright? So the little ugly duckling that everybody says is ugly, not so beautiful, will grow to be the swan. It is how you see yourself. Remember, the smaller you think you are, the really smaller you become in your own head, and that's scarier than the actual you. That's scarier than the actual reality. Alright? So with that, my dear students, take the first step. Take the first step by checking the filters that is in your head. Start changing them, because that is really, really the first step to start to unlock, unblock, and release this 90% of latent potential inside you. I repeat, inside you. Not in your mom's oven, not in your neighbor's wardrobe, definitely not inside your desk drawer. Okay? So, that's all for this round. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Stay safe.